American V8 engines are supposed to be the heartbeat of automotive legend. Thunderous, reliable, bulletproof powerhouses that built this country's love affair with horsepower. But not every V8 lived up to that promise. Some became absolute disasters that destroyed reputations, bankrupted owners, and turned dream cars into expensive paperweights. Today, we're counting down the most hated American V8 engines of all time. These aren't just engines that were underpowered or boring. We're talking about catastrophic failures that cost manufacturers billions, left customers stranded, and earned their place in automotive infamy. Let's dive into automotive hell. Number 6. The Pontiac 301 Turbo, 1980 to 1981. Kicking off our countdown at number 6 is the Pontiac 301 Turbo, an engine that perfectly captures the desperation and confusion of early 1980s Detroit. Picture this. It's 1980, the second oil crisis has Americans lining up at gas stations again, and Pontiac thinks they've found the solution. Take their smallest, weakest V8, strap a turbocharger to it, and somehow create performance magic. What could possibly go wrong? The Pontiac 301 was already a compromise engine designed to meet emissions and fuel economy standards rather than deliver excitement. With just 140 horsepower in naturally aspirated form, it was barely adequate for moving Pontiac's heavy cars around. So naturally, Pontiac's solution was to bolt on a turbocharger and hope for the best. The turbocharged version managed to squeeze out 210 horsepower, which sounds impressive until you realize it came with the reliability of a chocolate teapot. The turbocharger itself was agricultural at best, with poor heat management and virtually no intercooling. These things would overheat, seize up, and grenade themselves with alarming regularity. When the turbo failed, and it would fail, you were left with an expensive paperweight that couldn't get out of its own way. But the real problem wasn't just mechanical failure, it was Pontiac's timing. They launched this troubled engine right as the muscle car era was officially dead and buried. Customers who wanted performance were already looking at imports, while those who wanted reliability certainly weren't buying experimental turbocharged V8s from a company with zero turbocharging experience. The 301 Turbo lasted exactly 2 model years before Pontiac quietly killed it. Most examples didn't survive much longer than that. It became a footnote in automotive history, remembered mainly as proof that desperation makes for terrible engineering decisions. Sometimes the worst engines aren't the most ambitious ones, but the most misguided. Number 5, we have the Ford 6.0-liter Power Stroke diesel from 2003 to 2007, 2003 to 2007. Now, I know what you're thinking. This isn't technically a gasoline V8, but trust me, this diesel V8 earned its spot on this list through sheer determination to destroy people's faith in Ford trucks. Ford was riding high in the early 2000s. Their 7.3-liter Power Stroke had been a reliable workhorse for years, and they needed something more powerful and cleaner to meet new emission standards. Enter the 6.0-liter Power Stroke, developed with International. On paper, it looked fantastic. More horsepower, better fuel economy, and advanced emissions equipment. What could go wrong? Everything. Absolutely everything. The 6.0-liter became infamous for a laundry list of catastrophic failures. EGR coolers would crack and dump coolant into the intake. Oil coolers would fail, causing overheating. Head gaskets would blow, turning your $50,000 Super Duty into a very expensive lawn ornament. And the fuel injection system? Don't even get me started on the FICM failures that would leave you stranded on the highway. The worst part wasn't just that these engines failed, it's that they failed spectacularly and expensively. We're talking about repair bills that routinely hit $8,000 to $10,000 on trucks that were supposed to be bulletproof workhorses. Ford's reputation in the heavy-duty market took a beating it's still recovering from today. The 6.0-liter became so notorious that 6.0 or no-go became a rallying cry among diesel enthusiasts. Even now, nearly 2 decades later, mention a 6.0-liter Power Stroke to any informed truck buyer and watch them immediately start backing away. Ford had to completely redesign their approach to diesel engines, And the trust they lost with commercial customers cost them billions in lost sales. The Oldsmobile 5.7-liter diesel V8, 1978 to 1985. Picture this. It's the late 1970s. Gas lines are wrapped around city blocks, and Americans are desperately looking for fuel-efficient alternatives. GM sees an opportunity and thinks, you know what? Let's take our reliable 350 small block gasoline engine and just convert it to diesel. How hard could it be? Spoiler alert, very hard. The Oldsmobile 5.7-liter diesel wasn't designed as a diesel engine. It was literally a gasoline engine with some modifications slapped on. GM took their trusty 350, beefed up the compression ratio, added a diesel fuel injection system, and called it a day. It was like performing heart surgery with a butter knife. The problems were immediate and catastrophic. The block wasn't strong enough to handle diesel combustion pressures. Head bolts would fail, sending coolant into the oil and oil into the coolant. The fuel injection system was primitive and unreliable. Water pumps failed constantly. And the noise? This thing sounded like a tractor having a nervous breakdown. But here's the truly diabolical part. GM didn't just put this disaster in one model. They spread it across their entire lineup. Cadillacs, Buicks, Chevrolets, Pontiacs. Luxury cars that cost serious money were suddenly breaking down every few thousand miles with repair bills that exceeded their resale value. The 5.7-liter diesel single-handedly destroyed American confidence in diesel passenger cars for the next 30 years. While Europeans were perfecting clean, efficient diesel engines, American buyers were swearing off anything with a compression ignition engine. The damage was so severe that when modern clean diesels finally arrived in America, manufacturers had to practically give them away to convince skeptical buyers. GM's diesel disaster didn't just hurt their reputation. It set back American diesel technology by decades and gave Japanese imports an even bigger foothold in the American market. 3. The Cadillac HT41000, 1982 to 1988. If the Oldsmobile diesel was a disaster, the Cadillac HT41000 was a masterclass in how to destroy a luxury brand's credibility in 6 short years. This is the engine that taught an entire generation of Americans that European luxury cars were simply superior to anything Detroit could produce. The early 1980s were tough times for Cadillac. Cafe fuel economy standards were crushing traditional big block V8s, and customers were fleeing to BMW and Mercedes faster than you could say, Deutsche Engineering. Cadillac needed a lightweight, fuel-efficient engine that could still deliver luxury car refinement. Their solution? The HT41000, a 4.1-liter aluminum V8 that would make their previous engines look like masterpieces of reliability. The HT41000 was an aluminum block mated to iron cylinder heads, which is basically asking for trouble. Different expansion rates meant constant sealing problems. The cooling system was inadequate, leading to chronic overheating. The internals were so weak that 125 horsepower was about all this engine could muster without destroying itself. Let that sink in. A Cadillac Eldorado with 125 horsepower. But the real insult was the performance. These luxury barges were slower than economy cars, costing half as much. A Honda Accord could outrun a Cadillac Seville. The engine was rough, noisy, and had all the refinement of a cement mixer. Customers who spent $30,000 on a Cadillac were getting an engine that felt like it belonged in a discount rental car. The HT41000 didn't just fail mechanically. It failed so spectacularly that it began Cadillac's long slide toward irrelevance. Customers who might have forgiven one bad engine couldn't forgive an entire decade of automotive embarrassments. The damage was so severe that Cadillac is still trying to rebuild their reputation today. 2. The Chevrolet Vega 2300 aluminum block, 1971 to 1977. The Chevrolet Vega was supposed to be GM's answer to the Volkswagen Beetle and the rising tide of Japanese imports. It was going to show the world that Detroit could build small, efficient cars just as well as anyone else. The centerpiece of this ambitious project was a revolutionary aluminum block engine that would be lightweight, efficient, and durable. Instead, GM created what might be the most spectacularly failed engine experiment in American automotive history. The Vega's 2300 aluminum block was genuinely innovative. General Motors used a silicon-aluminum alloy with exposed aluminum cylinder bores, eliminating the need for iron cylinder liners. It was cutting-edge technology that promised to revolutionize small engine design. On paper, it was brilliant. In reality, it was an unmitigated disaster. The problem started almost immediately. The aluminum cylinder bores would wear out rapidly, causing massive oil consumption and blue smoke that could be seen from space. Engines would start burning oil before they hit 30,000 miles. The aluminum block would warp under heat, causing coolant leaks and head gasket failures. And the piston rings? They'd wear out so fast that some Vegas needed engine rebuilds before their first oil change interval was up. But here's what made the Vega disaster so much worse than other engine failures. GM sold over 2 million of these cars between 1971 and 1977. That's 2 million customers who got burned by what was essentially a beta test masquerading as a production car. Entire families swore off GM products for life. The used car market was flooded with barely running Vegas that nobody wanted to buy. The Vega didn't just fail as a product. It became a cultural symbol of Detroit's arrogance and incompetence. It proved to American consumers that Japanese manufacturers really were building better cars, and it accelerated the foreign invasion that nearly killed the American auto industry. 1. The Cadillac Northstar V8, 1993 to 2011. Taking the top spot as the most hated American V8 of all time is the Cadillac Northstar. This is the engine that proves good intentions and advanced technology mean absolutely nothing if you can't get the basics right. General Motors spent over $1 billion developing what should have been their masterpiece. Instead, they created their most expensive nightmare. The Northstar was supposed to save Cadillac's reputation. After disasters like the HT41000, GM needed something that could go toe-to-toe with BMW and Mercedes. What they created was genuinely impressive. A 4.6-liter dual overhead cam, 32-valve aluminum V8 producing 295 horsepower. It was smooth, sophisticated, and powerful. Automotive journalists loved it. For about 5 years, everything seemed perfect. Then, the head gaskets started failing. Not occasionally, not in isolated cases, but systematically, predictably, catastrophically. The culprit was GM's decision to use torque-to-yield head bolts. The failures typically happened between 50,000 and 100,000 miles, right after warranties expired. Customers who had spent $50,000 on a luxury car suddenly faced repair bills of $4,000 to $6,000. Many chose to junk otherwise decent vehicles rather than pay more than half the car's value for a repair that might not last. The Northstar didn't just destroy individual cars, it poisoned an entire generation of luxury car buyers against American brands. Even today, mentioning a Northstar-powered Cadillac will make informed buyers run away. It's automotive PTSD that's still affecting used car values more than a decade after the last one rolled off the production line. So, there you have it. The 5 most hated American V8 engines of all time. From the Vega's aluminum disaster to the Northstar's billion-dollar betrayal, these engines prove that good intentions and advanced technology mean nothing without proper execution. Each one taught the industry valuable lessons about rushing new designs to market and ignoring warning signs.